To be honest, I struggled to figure out where to begin writing this script. Even as I typed out this opening paragraph, I was uncertain. And to be honest, I think that just goes to show how much depth there is to the protagonist of the Owl House, Luz Noceda. At the start of the show, she may seem like a flat character, a girl caught up in her own fantasies, given a chance to fulfill them, an entertaining character for certain, but still a rather flat one that leads to the change of others over changing herself. And that isn't a bad thing. I quite enjoyed Luz from Season 1. However, the more plot-heavy Season 2 does not skimp out on developing Luz and seeing her character change, as her escapist fantasy turns much more grim than she could have ever predicted. At the very start of the show, we are introduced to who Luz Noceda is. A 14-year-old girl with unlimited creativity, but no idea how to apply it in ways that aren't very weird at best and outright destructive at worst. After a, quote, book report leads to a snake outbreak in the school and one even attacking the principal, her mother Camila sees a summer camp that will help her become more normal to be the best solution. However, Luz gets lucky when right before leaving, she ends up following an owl that stole her book into a portal to the boiling isles of the Demon Realm, a horrifying yet fantastic place where all of her fantasies were a reality. Meeting with the owl's owner, Outlaw Ida, the Owl Lady Clawthorn, and her pet/roommate, King, Luz ultimately finds herself in an opportunity she had only dreamed of before. She could stay in the Demon Realm while her mom thought she was at camp, and have Ida teach her how to become a witch. And so, Luz does exactly that, with much of Season 1 ending up being the exact kind of magical adventures she had dreamt of, including eventually enrolling in a magic school, getting several young witch friends, including top student and overall bully Amity, who she managed to get friendly with in spite of a rough exterior, and even getting to perform some magic, something that humans shouldn't be able to do, by discovering that she can draw glyphs with innate magic abilities granted by the Titan that the Boiling Isles reside on. And throughout this more lighthearted season, Luz is an incredibly fun main character. As you may have guessed, she is quite naive and childish, but matched with an infectious sense of positivity and childlike wonder in everything she sees. It's hard not to get caught up in her optimism and grow to love her quirks and interests as she approaches nearly everything in this new world with interest and hope. She serves as an embodiment of one of the show's central themes of not being afraid to express who you are. Luz is weird, but she wears that on her cat hoodie's sleeve. While I did say she is rather flat in Season 1, this isn't necessarily a problem, I reiterate. She serves as an effective flat character as a result of her nature, getting to change the lives and outlooks of many of the other people around her, especially Ida and Amity, who I'll get more into later. Even when she doesn't necessarily change others' outlooks, she undeniably makes their lives just a bit better by being there, such as by presenting King with a sibling dynamic he didn't even know he needed. That aside though, there are still a handful of lessons she learned during this season that are worth discussing. As early as episode 2, she's taught that some of her fantasies are going to need to be reined in when she's tricked by the puppeteer demon Adagast for believing that she might be the chosen one, at which point Ida tells her that she's much better off finding her own purpose than waiting for someone to force a grand destiny onto her. Later on, she finally learns a lesson she was well in need of learning. Her actions have consequences, even in this escapist fantasy of hers, and she needs to accept that and take caution. This comes to her when she accidentally hurts Owlbert, Ida's owl palisman, and spends the day doing everything she can to make it up to him. I certainly didn't think much of this episode at first, but in hindsight, it feels like this lesson in particular held a lot of weight moving forward in the show, as she proves to still be reckless but more considerate of potential consequences. This proves especially true near the end of Season 1 and throughout Season 2 when the plot kicks into high gear. Throughout Season 1, Ida's sister Lilith, a member of the Emperor's Coven that Ida so vehemently opposes, is trying to get Ida to join the Coven in hopes that the Emperor Belos will cure the curse that's been a part of Ida's life for decades. Getting desperate when given only one more day by Belos, Lilith conveniently finds Luz trespassing in the Emperor's castle in hopes of finding something to cure Ida herself, and Lilith takes this opportunity to use Luz as both bait and a meat shield to finally capture her sister. When this actually results in Ida's scheduled petrification for all of the laws she broke, Luz attempts a rescue mission to save her, but falls short and finds herself in a one-sided fight with the mighty Belos that leads to her needing to destroy the portal, her one way back home, back to her mother, that she always had on standby before should she need it. She had to destroy the portal in order to save Ida. Even then, the effects of the curse have left Ida, along with a recently reformed Lilith, without any of their magic. All of this, Luz blames herself for. Her actions had severe consequences here, ones that she puts all the blame squarely on herself for. This is made immediately clear in the first episode of Season 2, Separate Tides, when Luz takes on a dangerous seafaring, monster-hunting job to be able to earn more money for Ida. When confronted about this, she openly admits that it's because she's caused nothing but trouble for Ida. Ida lost her magic, nearly died, and can hardly afford food, all thanks to Luz. Ida immediately calls this out as absolute nonsense and lists all the reasons she's grateful to have Luz as a friend, and while this temporarily gets Luz to think straight, a theme of Luz thinking that everything is her fault, and a feeling that she thusly needs to redeem herself, continues to persist throughout the season. Before I get into that, though, I feel like I need to take a quick detour to discuss one of the undeniably beneficial developments Luz undergoes during this time, that being her relationship with Amity, that relationship being a romantic one. I alluded to their relationship earlier because along with Ida and King, Luz's relationship with Amity is one of the most important parts of her character. As early as Season 1, it was clear just how much Luz's presence had impacted Amity's life for the better. She was able to escape from her own toxic mindset of craving nothing but to be the best, and learn to at least try to make amends with those she hurt, and it was all thanks to Luz. With how much Luz had done for her, Amity quickly developed a crush on her, which would end up coming into fruition in Season 2 when she expressed her love with a small kiss on the cheek. This didn't immediately bring the two together, though. In fact, there were a few episodes before they'd even see each other again because it flustered both of them so much, even though Luz wanted to reciprocate Amity's feelings. When they do reunite, though, it's with Hootie, Ida's house demon and literally the Owl House himself, trying to speed up the relationship in a way that only flustered Luz more and made Amity think that Luz didn't want to be with her. When the two are able to come to an honest discussion about the situation after the fact and come to an understanding, though, they're actually able to make it work in an unbelievably wholesome and awkward joint confession. I go into detail about all of this because, well, I just love how the development of their relationship is so believable in all of the awkward stumbles the two would have in their efforts to traverse adolescent romance. Once this moment passes and they're officially together, they have several great moments of supporting each other in their own tough moments, getting to open up more and reveal more of their insecurities. It's truly one of the best relationships I've seen in a story. Alright, that's enough good that comes Luz's way in Season 2. Back to Luz's developing self-loathing! While separate tides established that these feelings existed inside of her, two events made them grow and fester until they were nearly all-consuming, with the first coming into play in Episode 10, Yesterday's Lie. Though still trapped in the demon realm, Luz is able to find a way to converse with her mother, and has to deal with the fallout of her decision to not just trap herself there for the greater good, but to even stay there for all those months ago at all. It should go without saying that Camila was heartbroken to learn that her daughter wanted to live in a perilous demon realm, like it was all her fault for driving Luz away, like Luz must have hated her. Before Luz can even properly explain herself, their method of conversing starts to be cut short, with her having to promise to stay with Camila upon coming back so that the latter can try to do better. Luz was absolutely devastated by this expected reaction, with the next episode actually showing Luz's distorted memory of this moment, thinking Camila wants her to never go there ever again following her return. Luz believes that after this, her mother cannot possibly forgive her for this decision, and she goes to absurd lengths to justify her choice in the following episode, almost as if she's trying to prove to herself that she's not a horrible person for her choice. The reveal a few episodes later that Luz's father has actually been long dead only adds more pain to this moment. Luz and Camila really only had each other, and on the anniversary of her father's passing, the two were worlds apart, all because of Luz's choice. Luz's self-loathing with regards to her relationship with her mother absolutely pales in comparison to what comes later, however. In her ongoing attempts to find a way back to the human realm, Luz finds out about Philip Whittabane, a human from the 1600s who also ended up trapped in the demon realm, and had kept a journal on his findings. When searching his journal proves to not be sufficient enough to make a stable portal back, she resorts to time travel! Yeah, long story short, wormholes through time just sorta form in the demon realm sometimes, and Luz was able to go back to actually meet Philip, and she even got to teach him a glyph he didn't even know and help him in his own journey. Unfortunately, he wasn't what all his journals had him cracked up to be, trying to use Luz as a sacrifice to further his own agenda. So Luz gave him what for and returned to the present. No harm, no foul. Except she would come to learn that Philip would go on to become Emperor Belos, and that this plan was to commit witch genocide. Nothing before this moment broke Luz quite this much. Learning that she was never a threat to Belos, but in fact a key part in his plan as part of the stable time loop that leads to her helping his past self get to this point, the poor girl begins to put all of the blame on herself, all of the blame for everything in the entire plot of this show. even though she had no way of knowing that these would be the consequences. How could she have known? On top of that, it's worth mentioning that Lilith was also with her on her time travel escapade, and Luz doesn't blame her one bit, even though she fell for the exact same trappings. She's so upset with herself that she can't even bear the thought of her friends finding out, as if they'll despise her for accidentally causing the fascist state they live in. Even with all of the people around her that still love her, it's clear that to some extent Luz hates herself, or at least she is wildly upset with any and all of her failings. At this point in the series, it's clear that Luz is at her happiest when she's able to make others happy, being able to help improve the lives of Ida, King, Amity, Willow, Gus, Hunter. That's when Luz feels her best. Conversely, every single screw-up of hers begins to weigh on her more and more as the series progresses, and the graver the mistake, the more she blames herself and tries to shoulder the burden of fixing it all alone, even getting angry with Ida for the Owl Lady trying to keep her safe instead of letting her go fight the government at age 14. The amount of martyrdom that Luz delves into after learning of her role in Belos' plot is frankly disturbing, starting with letting herself get captured and taken to fight Belos alone, when she knows for a fact that she is vastly outmatched by him. She attempts her greatest sacrifice at the end of the final episode of Season 2, however, when the battle with Belos leads to the release of the Collector, who quickly begins terraforming the Boiling Isles to the peril of everyone in it, and the only escape for Luz and her friends that were present was to escape through Belos' portal to the human realm. Everyone else there knows that they have no choice but to make their escape, but Luz stays behind, trying to literally hold everything together with nothing but glyphs, a fool's errand, and something that could very well be suicide. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving when Ida and so many others she's grown to care about were in danger, and if she couldn't save them, that would just be another mistake for her to shoulder. In the end, though, King ultimately ends up being the one to sacrifice himself, forcing Luz through the portal with her other friends, and the portal disappearing as soon as they crossed. Finally back in the human realm, but with her own friends now either stranded in the wrong world, or subject to become the playthings of a childish demigod. Even without words, it's obvious that Luz's internalized blame and self-hatred is at its highest point. In a special artwork released by Dana Terrace after the airing of this finale, not even the company of Amity comforts Luz in this darkest hour. She's entirely closed off, and I think it's clear in her eyes what she's feeling. Frustration, anger, regret, all directed at herself. The Owl House started out with the majority of episodes being occupied by wacky otherworld antics, and Luz having a ball throughout as she lived her escapist witch fantasy. Even in a fantasy world, though, time marches on, and she was forced to mature. Her escapist fantasy filled with deception, evil figures, life or death stakes, and above all, consequences for her actions. Probably what she was trying to escape above all else. As Ida notes a number of times, it just isn't fair for a 14-year-old kid to be put through all of this. And she's right. With how her optimistic state of mind deteriorated over time as the stakes grew greater and greater, it's safe to say that Luz wasn't ready for this kind of fantasy adventure. She messed up in these situations, and of course she did. But the way she put all of the blame onto herself for everything that happened was absolutely crushing to see as Season 2 came to a close. It's impossible to deny that she matured from her time in the Demon Realm. Definitely far more than she would have if she went to her mom's inside-the-box summer camp. She's come a long way from snake-based book reports, and she knows the gravity that her choices can hold now. It's even easy to argue that she's come out as a better, more well-rounded person in the end, even if she likely doesn't think so. In her attempts to avoid reality, however, it came at her all too fast, and in turn, she matured much too fast, experiencing things that no child should. With all of that being said, the show is, of course, not yet over. Season 3 will eventually come, and Luz's journey will conclude. What direction will it take? Well, only time can tell. I imagine that these mental issues she's been developing will be directly addressed, and she'll at least conclude the series in a better state of mind than the one she's presently in. I can't say for certain what the future holds for Luz and the Owl House at large, but whatever direction it takes, I have faith that the writers will stick the landing. They've come this far in crafting a truly amazing character. I believe that whatever they have in store for Luz will amaze me just as much. Hey, maybe I can spawn Season 3 into existence with this video like I did with Land of the Lustrous. I wrote that line before the announcement came out, so I'll count it. Hey, thank you so much for watching. These are definitely taking a lot longer to come out now that I'm trying to, actually edit the video. like add music at the bare minimum. But also, my writing style has definitely changed since early 2021, and I'm definitely trying to write more for each character, give them all the due that I think that they deserve. I do want to make some shorter videos sometime, like some analyses on some not too complex characters that I just still really like. That's one that I have in the works right now, but I don't know when that'll see the light of day. But that's enough rambling. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed Luz from the Owl House as much as I did. I am definitely hyped for Season 3. Yeah, anyways, if you liked this video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing and liking the video, yada yada, YouTube things. Yeah, see you later.